And welcome back to On the Record. In studio, Mohawk Council Chief Mike Bush. So we just before the break, we talked about some of the mistrust and some of the models and some of the things that, you know, I think that individuals and maybe rightfully so, some groups may have concerns about the direction this may go in and why is it happening now opposed later.
Okay, it's not when I started earlier on, we got a little bit distracted. Since 1979 forward, everybody's talked about the justice system in Kahnawake. In the beginning, when we started this whole thing, people were always talking about law enforcement, the peacekeepers, or peacekeeping or policing. People didn't really appreciate the distinction between justice and law enforcement, policing. I think we've gotten past that. We've come the next stage in the way people think about these things. And we're now at that point where I think the community is ready to be able to say what they want, right, in terms of how justice should be dealt with in the community.
I think one point, though, is that, and even, I know speaking to a lot of people, and maybe you fell into the same situation, as soon as you bring into the conversation justice itself, people always assume right away that it has to do with the law enforcement or the law part of it, or the criminal aspect of it. But it's not just that. I mean, that's only one component of what many things are going to be part of it. And could, you know, let's talk a little bit about that part.
All right. If we look at the distinction between the law, I mean, criminal law is the obvious one. You know, did you do something wrong or didn't you? Okay, the system out there is designed to identify who's telling the truth. Doesn't always work. Depends on your lawyer. But the truth of the matter is that there's also that form of justice that's out there, which is what we're looking for or looking towards, is what is correct and fair for the parties involved in some kind of a conflict. Okay? Conflict over who gets custody of the child. Okay? Best interest of the child is what should be determining the outcome, but sometimes it depends on who's got the money.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and that's not always the best result. Okay, but if we have the community saying, we want some kind of a jury peer system, I could give it another name, but I'll get in trouble for it, and have them make a decision about what is the best outcome for this child. Or let's take a property dispute. You and I are fighting over the shrubs on the lawn between us, and it's just grass. It's on my side of the line. And you're saying, no, it's on my side of the line.
I have an issue with that right now, but I leave it. My neighbor just is like, anyway, I let it grow.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't belong to both of us. It belongs to the road. But
maybe,
I mean, you know what I
mean?
mean?
Maybe that would be the just outcome, is that a law would say, or the rule would say, or whatever it might be, the decision, the order would say is that neither of you own it.
Yeah.
Okay, so stop fighting about it.
Exactly.
That might be the just result. Yeah. Now, is that what the community wants? Or do they want to say, bring the surveyor in, draw the line?
Yeah.
Okay, is that what the community wants? That's what we're asking for. Tell us the kinds of outcomes you would like to see the system deliver. Doesn't have to be a judge. It could be, as I just mentioned, some kind of peer jury type environment. It could be you and I are going to take your property dispute, my property dispute, and put it in front of a community meeting and say, look guys, what's the best outcome for this? Maybe that's what the community wants, but we need to know. Okay? Yeah. It's not going to be an absolute, you go in, the judge is going to sit there, or the justice of the peace, and say, you're right and you're wrong. Yeah.
But people have to realize, I guess, at the end of the day, whichever direction you're going to take, not the system itself, but the individual, no matter what system they're going in, you have to be able to agree to that process and agree to whatever the outcome is going to be at the end. Because if you're not going
We're sort of going towards ADR now.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, so...
But if that became the rule, look, if you enter into this and you accept it, You have to bind yourself to whatever the outcome is going to be.
But what binds us to that? My point is, what binds you to any of the laws that that are put up in this community? Because a lot of them presently are not enforceable because of one thing or another. I mean, we won't go into all the reasons for that, but they're not enforceable. So even though we can get a justice system put into place and we can put all these things, but if they're not enforceable, then how do we do that? It becomes something.
The people make it enforceable. Okay?
And
I know that sounds too simple,
Yeah.
but you think about it. Any law that exists anywhere is only as valid as all of the people who ascribe to it. It's the one guy who says, I'm not going to follow the law. But it's the rest of the people who are following it that make the one person guilty, the party that's
then it becomes
an offender.
Then it becomes the collective to the individual.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in the past where we've had laws in this community and it's fine until the person who's on the other end doesn't like the outcome of it.
Right.
And then they end up going, fight it in another court, and then our law gets thrown out. So everybody else...
that has not happened.
Well, not thrown out, but we don't use it anymore because of certain reasons.
Well, that's not my fault. I have a problem with the fact that we have individuals who decide that the outside court is the appropriate place to take it.
But
that may be an offense in Ganawage. If the community says you take it outside, you live with outside. And if you're going to live with outside, you may as well just go live with them.
Then we get back into the enforcement part again.
Okay.
What is how do you keep
if
that?
the community is making these decisions, then it becomes the obligation of the institutions to follow what the people have said.
In principle,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Got to start
Practical,
someplace.
yeah.
Or are we going to call the SQ to come in and say, hey, look, you have to enforce your law?
Well, we
Answer.
haven't had that done now. I mean, that's going
No.
from one drastic measure to another.
But we have that or chaos.
But you can't. But even using that, it's sort of saying to the community that you don't have any alternative. You better do this, or we're going to call in the SQ.
Okay.
That's the way I took it when you said that.
No, okay, fair enough. I'm beginning to see maybe there's
That wasn't
a
a good-
certain logic to
Yeah.
that, but at the same time, what else is there?
Yeah.
That's the question. That's what I was trying
We
to
can't
put
have
out.
chaos in this community.
Okay, I gave you maybe a wrong example, but at the same time,
For me, it doesn't matter. It's the people
what's
that are watching.
the option? What is the option?
Yeah.
Maybe the SQ is not a good, and I know that they're not.
You'll hear
That's
about
not the
that
point.
one.
Yeah, that people don't call me up. I didn't say that the SQ are coming in. That's not the case. What I am saying though is that if we don't do it, what's going to happen? Think up your own scenario. Guess, imagine.
What
do we call the RCMP back from the 1950s?
Think of this question before we go on break. What's wrong with the court system right now?
Our court system.
Our court system that we have right now, and why are we having to modify it so much? For people that don't know that.
Okay.
We'll be back right after these messages.